Welcome to the Sustainable Living Podcast. Tips, tools, and tactics for living a heart-centered life that honors Mother Earth and her inhabitants. The information shared on the Sustainable Living Podcast reflects the opinions of host Marian West, Janice Friant, and their guests. Please use your own discretion in research before applying any information to your individual situation. Now, here are your hosts, Marian and Janice.
Hello, everyone. This is Marianne West with the Sustainable Living Podcast, and I'm here with a really amazing woman. For one, she has the best smile ever. So when you see her, you're going to love her. And she has written new rules for business. And business is not just about money, but it's about bringing your spirituality along on the journey. She is amazingly accomplished in so many different things. She has been in the corporate world. She is a yogi. She has studied Ayurvedic medicine, right? And her name is Julie Zuzek. You have to say your name. I'm so sorry. I'm so bad with names. So Julie, and she will tell you her real last name because I'm butchering it. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. It is a mouthful. There's a Z, a U, and then another Z. So we pronounce it Zuzek.
Zuzek. Yeah. I almost got it before. Yeah. But
yeah, no, it's a tricky one. It is a mouthful. It really, really is. But thank you.
Names are my shortcomings. So here we go. One of them right out.
Yeah. Let's stick with our first names. Yeah.
Yeah. So you are the person behind the Corporate Yogi. I wanted to ask you, can you tell us just a very short overview and then we dive deeper into what you all do? So what's the Corporate Yogi? What do we expect when we hear that?
Yeah. So I like to help people, specifically entrepreneurs I like to work with. So people who are building purpose-driven, heart-centered businesses. And I like to, as you mentioned so kindly in your introduction, I like to really fuse spirituality into business because I know that when people build purpose-driven businesses, they are more fulfilled. So I help them through coaching, but on a number of different levels. So I help them on, the strategy and branding side because I have my background in corporate, but I also get to help them in that, heart-centered place where we get stuck because we're paralyzed by fear or we have self-doubt or all those negative voices in our head telling us that we're not good enough. So I've learned over the years after working with lots of entrepreneurs to listen for those cues, and the cues are fear, and learning to really help point that out with my clients so that they can see that they're standing in their own way, holding themselves back from doing what they really want to do.
Yeah. So right there, Julie has a podcast. So she's a fellow podcaster and I listened to her first episode. First of all, would you say is the correct name for your podcast? So I don't get names wrong again.
Yeah. Okay. I've called it Conscious Business with the Corporate Yogi.
Yeah. And you can be found on iTunes and Stitcher, I assume, and just all over the place, right? And you also can go to Julie's website. It's corporateyogi.com and find it there as well. So that said, I listened to your first episode and I'm like, oh God, it's me. And, I've continued listening to it. And so you brought up fear. And that's definitely something I have seen in my life to hold me back a lot. And also, I'm also a yoga teacher and I have done a lot of self-development work, but stuff comes up all the time. So it seems like a journey which is never finished.
Oh, that's so true. So true. And I think so many of us are waiting for, well, if I do this next brave thing, then I'll be through it all and I'll get to live fear-free and I won't have to have resistance and struggles anymore. And that's just not the case. What I've learned in my experience is that, your challenge is always up level with your ability to handle them. So as soon as you get through this, then you're stronger and you have a bigger range of capability. So then guess what? The next challenge that comes to you is even harder because you're more expanded to be able to deal with it. And that's just what we have to all accept our lives as, this constant journey. Yeah.
So true. So, and really that's kind of where you come in your coaching, so you help people to peel those layers of the onions back, one after another.
Exactly.
Would you tell me what your coaching looks like?
Yeah, well, it actually is quite different for everyone because everyone's at a very different level of their journey. I do work with a lot of, what I would say spiritual-based entrepreneurs or people who are in the healing arts, yoga teachers, energy healers, that type of thing. But then I do have quite a large segment of my clients, probably it's about 50-50, that are pure still in the corporate world. And so for them, their engagement looks very different because they might not be at the same place of self-awareness. So we might start with more tactical, practical things to get people engaged until we get under the hood to really see what's holding them back. Whereas someone who's a little bit more self-aware, we can go right into so where are you stuck? What's holding you back? And dive right into that. So everyone, my engagements they're typically customized based on what the person needs. And, we all have different things. I don't know if you still have things that you're scared of. They might be different than what I'm facing today. So, you have to really be malleable to accommodate and serve your clients the best way that they need.
Yeah. I definitely have things I'm still scared of. So yeah. And, there's probably, I have to step into acceptance that there's always some going to be there, some new, and maybe growth comes along with being scared and then overcoming that fear to go into the new adventure or whatever it is. So you were saying you have half of your clients are in maybe the healing arts, which I know a lot of people which are there. And one of the common threads, and I might be wrong, you might be dealing with different people, but from people I know, there's a lot of giving and a lot of soulfulness, but their relationship to money is a lot of times very, very quirky or very difficult. And you have 3 podcasts which are addressing the money issue. I mean, I love podcasts and I'm totally plugging your podcast because I feel people can from just listening to you learn so much. And to me, it's such a wonderful way to learn because you can listen and do something else at the same time and grow in so many ways. But do you want to talk a little bit about that money issue?
I do. And I agree 110%. You're bang on. I think everyone deals with money and worthiness, but I think people in the healing arts, people that are doing heart-centered work for people do have a harder time with it, especially if this is something new that you're going into. But even entrepreneurs, just to make everybody understand that we're all on the same page, even entrepreneurs who come from a very high profile corporate job still have problems, asking for what they're worth and accepting money. Because when you're in a corporate environment and you're asking for a raise or you're negotiating your salary, it's based on the work that you do. When we start our own businesses or our practices, it's based on who we are. And so that whole worthiness factor comes in. So that's what I think is the distinguishing factor between the two. But I'm laughing that you noticed I had the money mindset series. I just wrapped that up a couple of weeks ago, and it was a 3-part series because there was just so much content. And way back in the summer, I had specifically 3 of my clients ask me to do a series or suggest that I did something on money and being comfortable with what to charge and how to accept money from friends and how to raise rates and all those tricky things. And I started that episode so many times, it kept getting put on the shelf. And so I realized it was just too much content to do in one. So I broke it into 3 parts. And what I did is sometimes I like to take inspiration from my favorite books that have helped me figure things out along the way. So I started with The Millionaire Mind, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And so what Harv Eker does in that is he asks everyone to determine their money blueprint. And this is so important. And our relationship with money is just like other relationships or aspects of our life. You have to get to the root of what is causing your beliefs. And he walks you through a process, and I talk about it in the podcast, how to figure out what your beliefs are around money. And a lot of times we don't even know what the beliefs are. And then in the second piece, we go into sharing some tools that you can reprogram. So I share some tools from one of my other books, Abraham Hicks, The Money and the Law of Attraction. So some great tools there. And then the third one of my favorite books, probably the most recommended books, I think, in terms of money and money mindset. So the Napoleon Hill. So the Think and Grow Rich. which has some really, really fantastic, not only tools, but understanding how the law of attraction works with money, how to really see, feel, and believe that money is coming to you. But that feeling, connecting to that feeling of what it's going to be like to have money and really going to that place is a really powerful tool. So yeah, it was a lot of content, and I'll have to confess, I had a parallel learning when I went through that and going through some of the tools. There was some things that I unearthed that I hadn't really found yet either. So that was quite humbling for me to go through that series as well.
So that's actually fantastic that you discovered things about yourself as you were teaching others. So that's so cool. I think that's we all have to realize all the time. We might be masters in some, but we always can learn some else. We're like never finished. You were saying some about finding your belief system and believing. And do you want to talk a little bit about how beliefs affect what we actually do?
Yeah, well, let's continue with this theme around money, because all of our beliefs and programming around money and our mindset really does come from when we are young and very impressionable, not just from our parents, but also from other adults that might be influencers, from teachers, from, maybe TV shows, movies that we learned. All these messages around figuring out, is it believing that money is hard, or that money hard to earn, or that money makes people greedy. So people that have lots of money are bad people. So getting through to the root of what it is that you believe money does to you as a person, how it impacts us as a culture, how hard it is or how easy it is to receive it, and how it can really impact you. And once you get clear on what that programming is, then you can really go, oh, okay, I see how this has blocked me in the past. And then you do the work to shift it. So coming up with, new powerful mantras that we can use throughout our day, affirmations throughout the day, coming up with new beliefs. And then one of the tools that I shared in the second episode is the $100 game, which is my personal favorite. So just keeping a $100 bill. And again, this is one of Abraham Hicks' tools, keeping a $100 bill in your wallet. And as you go throughout your day, just looking at different things and saying, oh, well, I'd love to buy that purse. So I'd love to buy this item, or sometimes as gifts, right? Staying in that place of giving to others. So I'd love to buy that for my nieces or my nephew or something, just putting yourself in that mindset of, oh, I have abundant resources to be able to buy whatever it is that I need. And that makes you realize how much of your day has spent, oh, I can't afford that. Oh, I can't afford that. Because when you're purposely reprogramming yourself to say, I can buy that if I want to, and just keep trying to spend that $100 over and over and over again on things, it really makes you aware of what's there in the past and how that has impacted you.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's not to say that you have to go out and start being a crazy spender only because you have money. And I think a lot of your focus is too on being conscientious in the business practices, how we affect the earth, each other through business, and how we actually can make a great impact by being conscious business people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say, because I think a lot of work that has done, long before my time around conscious business definitely has that environmental pillar as a big, large component of it. The work that I do, and that is fully aligned with what I believe in, but I really do the work on the individual to get aware of who they are, because you can try to do all that external work on your environment, on your culture, on, anything in your social surroundings. But if you aren't right in the person, if you don't have the right beliefs, if you don't have that powerful foundation of yourself, then it's really hard to do good for others or really impact the environment, because you can try to do it, but if it isn't aligned with who you are, then it feels incongruent. And so I always want people to be clear about what it is that they really, really hold dear and true to them. And part of that work is getting them clear on their core values and their purpose.
Yeah. And I think that makes a big impact. So if you have more people being very clear on what it is and not being afraid to create a business around their passion, because I know a lot of people which also work in the sustainability field, and a lot of them are very poor and have that idea that money is bad. And like you addressed before, is that there is this whole mindset around it. And I grew up in the hippie time, where people were like, money is evil and corporations are evil. And it took quite a while to realize that that's the imprint. And if you believe that, then money becomes this scarcity in your life because you look at it as a devil, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I think by you helping people developing themselves, you give them the power to go out and actually do the good in the world they want to do.
In their own way, right? Because it's not about looking at a template or a boilerplate of what it is that makes me a good person. It's about connecting to who you are and doing good in your own relevant way that feels sincere to who you are. Because when we don't do that, when we try to do things that are going to make us look better, or we see this all the time with corporations who have, whether it's environmental policies or zero footprint or, CSR policies that aren't really congruent, or their employees don't even understand them, that feels off. And I think it does more harm than good because people don't feel aligned with the company or with the culture. So you've got to get clear on who you are and what is really important to you. And that allows you to really, really feel good about the change and the impact that you're making.
Mm-hmm. And I think you addressed it in one of your podcasts too, to find what you really want and not follow the shoulds. Because, if you're in a certain social group or whatever group, there might be a lot of shoulds, how you should be conducting your life or your business.
Yeah. That's a guarantee recipe for misery, shoulds and comparing. So the shoulds, I always say when we hear in the world of coaching, when we hear the word should, we're trained to keep your eyes open for saboteurs or for the ego, because that usually means, not in every case, but more often than not, it means that your client is comparing themselves to others, or they're trying to make themselves go to the gym when they don't really want in their heart to just go dancing for the evening and get exercise outside or do it in another way. But there's some deep part of them that is saying, oh no, I really should do this, but they don't really want to. So should is always a big red flag for me, because, we have to get deeper to understand what is making you feel like you have to do that. And why would you punish yourself to do something that you don't really want to do? And let's find a kinder, gentler, more authentic way to do what it is and get those same results, but, making your heart sing in a way. And then comparing is the other side of that coin too, is to look at what everybody else is doing. And in business, I don't know about you as an entrepreneur, but I do this a lot, is I feel compelled, especially with, an environment where all your peers are entrepreneurs. You might have a full plate of projects, but you see someone else doing something and you think, oh yeah, that would be great for my business. And so, you feel compelled to be doing that. Well, I have a perfect portfolio of things that I'm doing right now that's keeping me more than busy. But you get tempted when you see other people doing exciting things and you think you should be doing that too.
Oh, for sure. I'm definitely guilty of that. And
yeah.
Guilty of overcommitting myself for sure too. And, so like when you're saying you see other people doing it, I wanted to get a little bit to social media, because you are on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. You do like live videos on Facebook and so forth. I am somebody who goes back and forth with social media. I'm in love with it and then I'm like, I hate it, that kind of thing. But when you coach people, what's your approach to, and by the way, mostly you're under Corporate Yogi to be found, right? So Corporate Yogi on Instagram, Corporate_Yogi on Twitter, and Facebook. Is it your name? Are you under your name?
Both. People can really follow me both. Yeah. Yeah. So when I coach people, I like to, I love your very honest opinion, because I think a lot of people are in that boat where they love it and then they go through phases where they don't want to. I think there's always something underneath that, which is that we're conditioned to only be showing the good stuff. And I think when we're having a bad day, we feel this resistance, like, oh, I've got nothing to share today. And, wouldn't it be fascinating if we could all just get in this place of sharing like the real world and version of what it would be like to be an entrepreneur? I think it would be interesting to see that. But I always coach people to do what feels authentic to them. So don't feel like you have to be in all these different social channels. Again, back to the shoulds, just because you see everybody else doing it. Pick what feels right for you. So for some people who are photographers or love, that visual aspect of it, stick with Instagram. That can be a great way for you to really grow a large community. If you want to do a bunch of them, that's great. But I always suggest start small, pick one and really master it. Find out how to use it to the best of your ability and then start layering on more.
Thank you for that. You have also a mastermind group. Do you want to tell me about that? I always find so it's very intriguing.
Yeah, well, I love I launched it last year and my only regret was to not have launched it earlier. I don't really know why. I think I was just really focused on my one-to-one, because whenever I meet someone who's a prospective client and wants to work with me, 95% of the time they want to work one-on-one. But if you can get them in an environment that's a group environment, they learn so much more. They really, really do, because they learn from their situation, but then they also learn from other people going through their challenges. And so that either helps them understand something they went through 3 months ago, or it helps them blueprint so that when they have to go through that, they've got tips in their back pocket. So I launched it last September. My masterminds are a lot of fun. I have a couple different groups. I have ready to launch, so people who are in the very early phases or still trying to figure out what it is that they want to do with their business. And then I have a high growth group, so people who've been in business for at least 3 years and they're established for the most part. They just want to kind of grow and find more clients or get online, build an online program, whatever that happens to be. And as a structure, we meet 2 times every month, and we do a video conference call for 90 minutes. So everybody gets a chance to be in the hot seat and talk about what's going on with them, what their wins are, what their challenges are. And I go through and coach them, and then we give everybody else a chance to chime in and share their opinions and advice and suggestions as well.
Nice. How big are the groups?
Yeah, I like to keep them intimate, so they max out at 6 people.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So very small. I want everyone to have a chance. You know, I do everything like I like to have it done. So I like to teach yoga in an authentic way. I like to be in a class where a teacher cares for me and doesn't just stare at themselves in a mirror and do their hair. So that's how I teach yoga. I coach how I like to be coached. I like people to feel, safe and held. I run my masterminds like I like to have my masterminds run if I was in when I have been in one, which is to make sure that you have time every opportunity to talk about what's going on with you. Because I think a larger group, it can be really challenging to really get any advice or any impact yourself. Mm-hmm. And the more people that you have, it's harder to create that sense of intimacy. So,
yeah, did you find that people become friends and then help each other as well outside of group?
Absolutely. Yep. And I purposely created a Facebook group just for the mastermind. And so I wanted them to be able to sort of chat with each other, not only share what's going on in between our sessions about what progress they've made, but also just, socialize and get to know each other more. A lot of us live outside of the Toronto area, so we've had other social gatherings going on, which is really cool. And likewise, people who meet up in other cities get to travel, and now you have someone that who, it lives in Texas that you can now go visit. So that's really cool. And I'm expanding that. So I'm launching another cohort in February. So I'm just intaking people now. And so they'll also go in the same Facebook group. So I really want that to stay alive and have all those people, past and new, still have that opportunity to connect as well.
So is your mastermind usually time limited, or, it's still new for you, but is it some people join ongoing, or do you feel like somebody will come and stay for, 3 months, 6 months, and then they move on to something else?
Yeah, good question. So I opted to make it a 5-month commitment. I felt like that was enough time for everybody to really get to know each other, make some good shifts, and then everybody has the opportunity to go off and they can keep doing their mastermind on their own if they want, if somebody wants to step up and run it, or they can always renew and come join a new group. But I really wanted it to feel like it was a set group of people, kind of like if you were to take a course or study at something. As I'm sure you'll appreciate, being a yoga teacher, I'm a big believer in Sangha, and that's one of the aspects of yoga that I really pull out into the business. So for me, if you want to build a business, you have to grow community. It's all about community. And so it's not just about me working with my clients, it's about creating a network for all my clients who I know are like-minded people. Because if you're working with me at all, you have a particular way of thinking, right? I like to joke that I live in a bubble and it's only good people who really want to, make change and impact the world and have positive intentions, and they're responsible for their actions. And so you want to interact with more people like that. So building community is such a big part of it. And so I made sure that was fused into the program when I created it last year.
Very cool. So when you were saying you live in a bubble, I just had this image coming up of, we are all creating bubbles, and the bubbles get bigger and bigger and then overlap. And pretty soon we have a whole world full of people with positive intentions.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Soon enough.
Yeah,
Soon enough.
very nice. Let's set some intention. So some I didn't know before, and I found when I was like kind of going over your website to check on also cool things you do. You do a retreat coaching. So that's super interesting to me.
Yeah. So
tell me all about it, please.
Yeah. So I do. It was one of the, my business has always been very organic. It's got a lot of winks from the universe. I didn't sit down and say, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur. Like the business name, the Corporate Yogi, came to me when I did my first teacher training. I was still working full time and I had no idea I ever wanted to be a business owner. So I'm very open to watching for those flirts from the universe, and I listen to them very carefully because I know that that I feel lucky to get them. And so as far as retreats went, it felt like a very natural putting a puzzle together of all my skills and all my experience. And so I've been at my business for about 5 years now. And about the second year, I just decided, you know what? I want to run a retreat. Let's run a retreat. I really started out small. I did just a weekend one here locally outside of the city, and it went really well. And then I started to do international ones, taking people to warm destinations. And I loved it. Like I said, it felt natural to me. I had a background in event management and marketing. So that aspect was fine. I'm a yoga teacher of many different styles. And then I can also facilitate, like I've done group coaching and creating workshops and content. And so it was like a perfect storm of all the things that I love to do. And I love intensive transformation. Like I like that opportunity to just bring people together in an environment and really immerse them in learning and transforming and being in a beautiful, healthy location with great food and sunshine. And as I started to run my retreats, I started to really get these confessions from people that, oh, well, I've always wanted to run a retreat. And I said, well, you should, and they said, well, I don't know how. And so I started to realize that there's a lot of people that didn't have my odd mashup of experience and skills. So I started to teach them, and I did free webinars, I did free workshops, and I just started to do that for a number of months, teaching people what I knew. And then I just kind of came to me that, oh, this is actually like a product you should sell. Again, back to worthiness and giving things away for free. So I did. I created that last year. I'm kind of proud of it. It's my first online program. So it's called Retreat You. And the URL for that is retreatu.co. So RETREATU.co. And so it's an online program. It's a 3-month program that we do. We walk people through every aspect of retreat leader training, from how to market your retreat, how to create content for it, how to position it and sell it, how to handle the business side of things, a little bit of everything. And so that's another great community that I have.
Yeah, that sounds super interesting. I have done many retreats and convergences, which is basically a conference, just a name from the permaculture world. And there's really a lot of different skills going into that. But I have never done a destination retreat. So that sounds very, very interesting. We might talk more later.
Yeah, it's fun.
For sure. I just thought about something and it totally left my brain. So tell me something else you want the world to know, because my question just...
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I think, what we probably could circle back to, which I think, again, we both be very aligned with, is just talking about yoga and pulling the yoga philosophy into business, because to me, it's so natural. And I always, people who hear my company name or see my website always ask me, do you teach yoga postures in your coaching? Like, is that how the yoga works? Like, how do you apply the yoga? And, I explain the 8 limbs of yoga and what yoga really means, because a lot of people, don't really understand that. They quite literally think yoga is just a different form of Pilates. It's just a physical exercise. And so I always take them back to that explanation, and that the original definition of yoga isn't just mind, body, and spirit. That's what we ended up translating it in the West, but just that original Sanskrit definition of union of individual consciousness with universal consciousness. And that's our initial objective of yoga, is union in that sense. And when I explain that way, it makes so much sense to business, don't you think? Because at the end of the day, that's all we're doing, is we're finding a way to connect with each other, to build communities and Sangha. And when we do that, we focus on what it is that we have in common with each other. And that's what allows us to see the similarities and really connect. And so for me, that's truly where yoga comes into play with business.
Yeah, I love love that. And then I think on an individual basis too, if people practice yoga and meditation more, then the challenges of business don't become so overwhelming. It allows kind of that space to come up with a solution. Doesn't it feel like that when you can?
Well, it's proactive and it's reactive, right? Because it helps you to find your solutions, not forcing, solutions on problems. But I also think it helps in the proactive way of being more connected to your creativity, to, coming up with content and ideas. And that comes from being grounded and really having a good regular meditation practice. Do you find?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you address in your podcast too, and I think this fits like right into this practicing on a personal level, not just the business practices, but the personal development and calming things. So you talk a lot about the monkeys, the mind monkeys, the chatterbox in your brain and how that affects us in business. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, so I love it. The monkey mind and the ego, the saboteur, whatever name, that inner mean girl or inner mean boy, whatever that negative voice or dialogue that's going on inside your head that is telling you that you can't, or that you're not good enough, or that you're not ready yet, or no one wants to hear your message. And we all have that part of ourselves. And we sometimes label it as imposter syndrome, like I really want to do this, but nobody's going to read my book or no one's going to listen to my podcast. Who am I to do this? And this is such a fundamental part of going through the growth process as an entrepreneur, because it really is. I do truly believe that it's the most intense form of personal development that you ever go through when you put yourself out there as an entrepreneur, because you have to, in order to succeed, you have to step up and be seen. You have to allow people to see all parts of you. And it's not like you can say, oh, well, you know what? I really don't want to do that talk, or I really don't want to do that podcast. And so if you had a job, you just put it on the back burner and deal with it next year or in a couple of years, or have someone else in the company do it. But as an entrepreneur, it's you. It has to get done. The success of your business really depends on it. And so in order to really, really step into where you need to be and to be successful, you have to focus on what scares you the most. And, when we lean into our fear, there's always magic on the other side. And so that's what I like to guide people. And anyone listening, just take an inventory of what your fears are. Take an inventory of what those negative voices are, because those are really breadcrumbs that are going to lead to very magical things happening to you, big magical shifts to parts of yourself that really need to be grown and developed. And those are part of the journey. And that's kind of what I believe with conscious business. It's not about hiding them or getting through them. It's about making friends with them and taking them with you on your journey, because if you can use them as your blueprint of what it is that you need to really focus on.
Yeah, hiding, in my opinion, just makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. I think my yoga teacher actually used an analogy of when you have a balloon and you keep pushing it down, and someday you get tired, then it just boom, explodes out of the motor.
I love it.
I was wondering, in your clientele, do you find that more women are seeking you out, or men, or is it pretty equal?
Yeah, it's slightly more women, but I'd probably say about 60% females, 40% males.
Because it seems like there's an explosion of women stepping out and becoming entrepreneurs. I think the corporate climate is still a little bit, how do you say that? That men have still a better wall often, and women have to work so much harder to get the same recognition. And it seems like more and more women are stepping into their power and saying, I want to stand on my own 2 feet and do this. But that might just be my perception. That might be completely wrong. I don't know.
No, I think you're bang on. I know, I'm not sure what it is in the US, but here in Canada, female entrepreneurs are the largest growing segment right now.
Yeah, makes complete sense to me. Julie, would you like to tell us anything else I haven't touched on? It's something I done.
Yeah, no, we touched on a number of different things. Well, I wanted to share, if anybody is interested and they haven't set their goals for the new year, I do have a free course that I'm offering right now. If anybody's interested, they can download that on the website. It's thecorporateyogi.com/goals. And so that's a great course. course. It's a lot of fun. I always do goal setting in 3 parts, which is reflecting on 2016, seeing what you did, what worked, what didn't work. And then we set new goals. And then we do the third piece, which is the implementing the goals. So what are the behaviors that need to happen to support those goals happening? What is it that you're going to do differently this year to make 2017 look different than 2016 did? And, really setting yourself up to actually do things that make your heart sing. So that's a great gift I'd love to extend to anyone in your community who's interested.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I actually signed my husband up for it and he's not planning on doing a business. So I just think it's, even if you just want to do it for personal growth,
yes.
It's wonderful. So even if you're not in that space of, I want to start a business right now, but to just do it for yourself, it seems like a very good gift you're giving us there. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I love that you signed him up for him. You voluntold him that he was going to take the course. And it's true, whether it's your business or your personal life, your health, travel, fulfillment, the goals that we write down, this is a great stat. Goals that we write down are 42% more successful and likely to happen just by simply writing them down. So we've got to get clarity. I love that analogy of, a GPS. I personally have a horrible sense of direction. So when driving or walking around, I always get lost. But so if you have your car and you have your GPS, you think, okay, this is great. I'll get to go exactly where I'm going. But you have to plug in the destination. The GPS doesn't know where you want to go. It's the same thing with the universe. The universe doesn't know what you really, really want to happen in 2017. You've got to specifically say what it is that you want to travel more or to make more money or to live more balanced or be more healthy. And you have to be specific about what it is that you want. And that's how you will be successful. So
do you recommend to couples of ones with action steps to say, like, I want more money and I'm willing to do this? Or is it some you can work on later? First get clear about what you want and then develop the action? Or how would you suggest for people to do it?
Well, I like people to pick. With this process that I've taught in the course, I actually ask them to narrow down and pick 5 things. And the reason I do that is, again, back to like an analogy of watering plants in a garden. If you had 100 plants and you gave them just 1 drop of water, they would probably all suffer. None of them would really thrive. But if you just picked 5 of the healthiest, most promising plants in your backyard, and you really gave them all the water that they needed, they would really thrive. And so getting really clear on what it is that you want specifically and focusing. And that allows you to really put all your attention onto that. And that's the most fulfilling because you get to see those things really come to life.
Excellent. So I remember now what I wanted to ask you earlier.
Okay.
You were talking about that you're getting little messages from the universe and said
winks from the universe.
Yes, and that you listen very carefully to them. So would you share like a technique to figure out this is actually something I need to listen to, or this is just some mind chatter entering my brain?
That's a good question. Well, I believe really strongly in your conscious intelligence or your intuition. And that's, that deep part of ourselves that we all have, but we don't either cultivate it to listen to it carefully, or we don't trust it and act on it. So I would say a couple things. Circling back to, what we talked about earlier and really meditating and having a good grounding practice every day. That's a good way to really tap into your conscious intelligence and really listen to that intuition. The other thing I would say is to journal and write things down as they come up. And there's just a knowing that happens in everyone, whether it's like from the head or from the heart. And so just even in that moment, asking yourself, distinguishing, is this something that is coming from the head, from my ego, from my shoulds, right? From my wanting to compare or be like others? Or is it coming from my heart and making me excited? And just taking that time to ground, a couple, 3 deep breaths to really get clear on which one of those is driving that particular thought. I think that's a good tool for people to use.
Excellent. So I love that you use journaling in, because I think definitely that's helping to get clarity. Are you familiar with the morning pages where you wake up in the morning and in your subconscious, not your subconscious, but you're not quite awake and you just write? Have you any experience with that?
Yes, I can't remember her name. Not Susan, is it? Who wrote the morning pages? I saw her years ago.
It's part of the Artist Way, and I don't remember her name. Yeah.
Julia Cameron, is it maybe?
Yes.
I saw her.
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I did see her speak years ago, and love that she brought up the morning pages. And I think it's a great way, whether you're trying to be creative or you just want to get clarity or you just feel stuck, just start writing and keep writing, because I agree that takes you out of your head and just puts you in that state of flow. So that's a really, really powerful tool. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, not just to get unstuck, but to just write down miracles that happen, because in your day, we have highs, we have lows, and sometimes we have those really off days where we just feel stuck. And so I like to go back to my journal and see, oh, hey, these 3 really cool things happened this week. Actually, maybe I shouldn't be so down because all these great things have been happening to me. I'm just having a really rotten afternoon. And so I think, writing things down for that purpose, to go back and reflect on them, is a nice way too.
Nice. Thank you for that tip. That's a good one. And I think that brings us to acknowledging what we actually do. I mean, I grew up in you had to be certain things or it was just not good enough. And that can be really limiting, because then you're afraid to do anything really, because it's not good enough ever. So to acknowledge the stuff you have done and have done well, I think is really important. So thank you for pointing it out. Write it down.
Yeah. It's like that saying, we only want something for as long as it takes to get it. As soon as we accomplish it, we don't desire it anymore and we move on to the next thing. And so taking time to just give yourself a little pat on the back, right? And appreciate what it is that you did and how long it took to get there and everything that you did along the way, all the baby steps that you took, all the courageous leaps that you did, everything you had to learn and grow along the way. That's part of really appreciating who you are. And, we're conditioned in our society to keep track of what we didn't get done rather than what we did. Mm-hmm. And so if you can, shift that will help you no matter what you do for your livelihood or your job.
For sure. Thank you. Anything else you'd like to tell us?
Oh my gosh.
Open mic right now.
Yeah. Open mic. Goodness.
You can sing if you want to.
Yeah, I don't think you want to hear me sing. No, I feel like this has been a great chat. I feel like we have a lot in common. I think specifically like the yoga angle and really having that as a solid foundation is so important, for us, and a lot of other people can relate probably to that. And whenever you feel off track, just keep coming back to that, because that's the truth of who you are and where all your answers lie. We're always constantly looking for answers to our problems outside of ourselves or other people to solve things for us. But it's all the solutions to all problems live within the solution, right? The seeds of resolution are already within the problem.
Thank you. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was a great chance to chat with you and with your community. And I wish you all the best in the new year.
I felt so bad that I butchered Julie's name, that I practiced a whole bunch. So Julie Zuzek, I hope I got it right this time. And I'm so glad she came on. And I wanted to tell you that I did the goal setting free workshop and it's wonderful. And my husband did it too. And he really liked it too, even though I was the one signing him up. So if you get a chance, grab that free resource and plan your new year. On a personal note, or podcasting note, we are on Instagram now under Sustainable Living Podcast. And I hope you guys come over and check us out. Wishing you the best new year and everything you want, all your goals get fulfilled by you. You can make it happen as we talked about. Thank you.